my daughter and her husband left me alone in the middle of the trip, so I sold everything. My name is Hattie Wilson, and I am 63 years old, a retired nurse from Portland, Oregon. I always thought my daughter Sophia and I would be close forever, even after she married Derek. We were until that fateful trip to Italy last summer. I still remember standing alone in that Florence hotel lobby, luggage at my feet, reading their note, saying they had gone ahead without me. Later, I overheard Derek on the phone. "That old lady is only bothering us." And Sophia laughed. If you're watching this from somewhere warm and comfortable, take a second to like and subscribe. I'm about to show you how this abandoned mother turned the tables on the ungrateful children who left her stranded. I raised Sophia on my own after my husband Jack died of a heart attack when she was just 12 years old. As a nurse, I worked long hours at Providence Medical Center, often picking up double shifts to keep our modest home and provide Sophia with opportunities. Those first years were tough. I would come home exhausted, but still made time to help with homework and talk through her grief. We became each other's support system, navigating our new reality together. Money was always tight, but I found ways to afford the things that mattered. When Sophia showed talent for dance, I took on weekend shifts to pay for lessons. I remember sitting in the back of recital halls, sometimes still in my scrubs, watching her shine on stage. The pride I felt in those moments made every sacrifice worthwhile. Our traditions became our lifeline. Sunday brunches were sacred. Even if I'd worked overnight, I'd wake up to make her favorite blueberry pancakes. We spent holidays baking together, filling our small kitchen with cookies to give to neighbors and my coworkers. Every summer, we'd save for a road trip. Nothing fancy, just exploring Oregon and Washington in our old Honda, singing along to the radio. Sophia had her struggles. Math never came easily to her, and I spent countless evenings at the kitchen table working through problems. When Jason Peters broke her heart sophomore year, I called in sick to stay home with her, watching old movies and eating ice cream straight from the container. When college application season came, I took her on campus tours and stayed up late helping her perfect essays. Her gratitude during those years meant everything. For my birthdays, she'd make handmade cards with pressed flowers from our garden. When she was 16, she saved her babysitting money for months to buy me a silver necklace with a nurse's caduceus pendant. "Because you heal everyone, Mom," she said. I never took it off. The day Sophia graduated college was one of the proudest of my life. I'd managed to save enough for her education at Portland State so she could graduate without debt. As she walked across that stage in her cap and gown, I couldn't hold back tears. All those late nights, extra shifts, and sacrifices had paid off. She was the first in our family to earn a college degree. When she found her first apartment, I helped her paint the walls and scoured thrift stores to find furniture. When she landed her first marketing job at a local agency, I brought dinner to her office when she worked late. She was building her own life, but we remained connected through weekly phone calls and monthly dinner dates. She'd tell me about her projects and office politics while I shared stories from the hospital. As she progressed in her career, eventually becoming a marketing executive at a major firm, I watched with pride. My girl was making something of herself. Her salary soon surpassed mine, but our relationship remained grounded in the years of mutual support and love. At least that's what I thought until Derek came into the picture. Sophia met Derek Harrison at a corporate fundraiser 5 years ago. She called me the next day, bubbling with excitement about this amazing finance manager she'd met. Within weeks, he was all she talked about. When she finally brought him to Sunday brunch, I tried to be open-minded despite my initial reservations. Derek arrived driving a luxury car I knew Sophia couldn't afford. He was handsome in that polished corporate way, expensive haircut, designer watch, perfect teeth. His handshake was firm but brief, his smile never quite reaching his eyes. During brunch, he spoke mainly about himself. His position at the investment firm, his MBA from Wharton, his plans to make partner by 35. "Your home has that quaint lived-in feel," he said, looking around my living room. "Sophia tells me you've been here since she was a child. Have you ever thought about upgrading to one of those new condos downtown?" I noticed little changes in Sophia immediately. She started checking her phone when Derek texted, sometimes cutting our brunches short. She began referring to my neighborhood as out in the suburbs, though it was only 15 minutes from downtown. When I mentioned her favorite local restaurant for her birthday dinner, she suggested an expensive steakhouse instead, somewhere Derek would enjoy too. The engagement came after just 8 months. Derek presented Sophia with a diamond ring that must have cost more than I made in half a year. When she called to share the news, I could hear the excitement in her voice. I was happy for her truly, but something nagged at me about the speed of it all. "We're thinking a short engagement," Sophia told me over coffee the following week. "Derek says why wait when you know what you want?" The wedding planning revealed more warning signs. When I offered to help address invitations or search for venues, Sophia would say, "Derek's mom is handling that," or "Derek's assistant is researching options." When I suggested incorporating Jack's favorite flowers as a tribute to her father, Derek interjected, "We're going for a modern aesthetic, nothing too sentimental." Despite my limited retirement savings, I offered $30,000 toward their wedding, nearly wiping out my emergency fund. Derek accepted without hesitation, though I later learned his parents contributed triple that amount. At the wedding planning dinner, he casually mentioned flying in orchids from Thailand and hiring a celebrity chef. "That seems extravagant," I ventured. "Wouldn't local flowers be just as beautiful?" Derek's expression hardened. "We want the best day possible. I wouldn't expect you to understand the difference quality makes." The wedding day itself was beautiful but painful. I found myself seated at a table far from the main party while Derek's parents were prominently placed. The mother-son dance lasted longer than Sophia's brief sway with a photo of her father. When I tried to help Sophia with her dress before the ceremony, her mother-in-law stepped in saying, "I've got this, Hattie. Why don't you go find your seat?" After they married, the distance grew. Sophia's calls became less frequent, often with Derek audible in the background, asking who she was talking to. Our standing Sunday brunches dwindled to once a month, then became, "We'll let you know when we're free." 3 times Sophia canceled dinner plans less than an hour before citing work emergencies or Derek's sudden schedule changes. I tried connecting with Derek through his interests. When he mentioned collecting wines, I researched and brought a special bottle to their housewarming. "It's a bit below what we usually drink," he said, setting it aside. When he talked about golf, I asked about his favorite courses, only to have him laugh. "It's not really a sport you'd understand, Hattie." When they decided to buy a house in West Hills, Portland's most exclusive neighborhood, Sophia called, asking if I could help with the down payment. I was nearing retirement, but wanted to support her dream home. I contributed $150,000, nearly all my housing savings intended for my retirement cottage. "We'll add you to the deed," Sophia assured me, "and we're designing a mother-in-law suite for when you're older, Mom. You can sell your place and move in with us eventually." I signed the papers, becoming part owner of their 4,000-square-foot home. The mother-in-law suite was mentioned at closing, but somehow disappeared from the final plans. Derek explained, "We needed that space for my home theater instead. You understand, right? You're still young and independent anyway." I watched Derek grow increasingly impatient with Sophia's relationship with me. If she mentioned our plans, he'd sigh loudly. If I called during dinner, he'd comment, "Your mother has impeccable timing as always." When Sophia defended me, he'd respond, "I just think it's time to cut the apron strings a little." When I tried addressing my concerns, Sophia dismissed them. "Derek's just direct, Mom. He doesn't sugarcoat things like we do. It's what makes him successful. You'll get used to his way of communicating." I wasn't sure I wanted to get used to it, but for Sophia's sake, I tried. Over the next 2 years, my financial support for the couple continued, though my retirement date kept getting pushed back to accommodate it. Beyond the house contribution, there were other entanglements I never anticipated. After being added to their house deed as co-owner, I felt a sense of security. At least my investment was protected on paper. What I didn't foresee were the additional requests that followed. Derek approached me about investing in his guaranteed return business venture, a restaurant concept he was developing with a college friend. "It's a sure thing, Hattie," he assured me over dinner at their house. "Minimum $75,000 buy-in, but investors are seeing 40% returns in the first year alone." I hesitated, but Sophia joined in. "Mom, this could help secure your retirement too. Derek knows what he's doing." I took out a loan against my 401k, something I'd never imagined doing, and gave them $75,000. The restaurant opened to fanfare, then closed within 8 months. The money vanished with Derek explaining away the failure as market conditions beyond anyone's control. The loan was never repaid. That same year, when Sophia and Derek experienced what they called a temporary cash flow issue, despite their combined high salaries, I tapped my retirement accounts again. The penalty for early withdrawal was steep, but Sophia sounded desperate on the phone. "It's just until Derek's year-end bonus comes through," she promised. "We might lose the house otherwise." $25,000 later, their financial crisis passed, but when I gently inquired about repayment 6 months later, Derek seemed genuinely confused. "That was a gift, wasn't it?" Sophia certainly presented it that way. As their financial success grew, promotions, bonuses, equity packages, their generosity diminished. They took luxury vacations to Bali and the Maldives, while I continued working past retirement age to rebuild my savings. Meanwhile, my 60s were approaching, and my energy for 12-hour nursing shifts was waning. For my 60th birthday, I hoped for a special celebration with my daughter. Instead, I received a text message from Sophia from a yacht somewhere in the Mediterranean. "Happy birthday, Mom. Sorry we couldn't be there. Derek surprised me with this trip. Will bring you something nice back." The gift turned out to be a refrigerator magnet. When I finally gathered the courage to discuss financial boundaries, the conversation quickly soured. "I'm not keeping a ledger, Mom," Sophia said, looking uncomfortable in her designer outfit that probably cost more than my monthly salary. "Family helps family. You wouldn't want us to struggle just because you're counting dollars, would you?" Derek added. "We've always planned to take care of you in your old age, Hattie. Isn't that worth more than some loans between family?" Their apologies seemed insincere, but I desperately wanted to believe them. After they left, I started a detailed spreadsheet documenting every financial transaction between us, including the house investment. I also scheduled lunch with my friend Patricia, who had practiced family law before retirement. "Hattie, you need to protect yourself," Patricia warned after hearing my story. "Being on the deed gives you rights, but you should know exactly what those rights are. And these loans, without proper documentation, they'll never hold up if things go south." She helped me understand my legal position regarding the house and recommended I stop any further financial assistance without formal agreements. I felt a growing anxiety about my financial security for retirement, now pushed to age 65 and beyond. That Christmas, I spent weeks finding thoughtful gifts within my budget. A leather portfolio for Sophia, with her initials a specialty coffee subscription for Derek based on his preference. When I arrived at their house for the holiday dinner, my presence looked pitiful beside the mountain of expensive packages from Derek's family. Derek unwrapped my gift and set it aside with barely a glance. "Thanks, Hattie." Minutes later, he excitedly showed off the premium golf clubs his parents had given him. While helping in the kitchen, I overheard Derek talking to his father in the den. "Yeah, Sophia's mom is still working. Honestly, she might become a financial burden soon. Nurses don't exactly have golden parachutes, and her retirement planning has been questionable at best." This from the man who had directly benefited from my questionable retirement planning. When I mentioned this comment to Sophia the next day, she sighed. "He didn't mean it that way, Mom. Derek just worries about everyone's financial security. He was probably concerned about you not complaining." I didn't believe her, but I nodded anyway. Then came the surprising invitation that would change everything. "Mom, we want you to come with us to Italy next month," Sophia announced during our rare Sunday brunch. 2 weeks in Rome, Florence, and Venice. Derek has a business conference in Rome for the first few days, but then we'll all travel together. Italy had been my dream destination since nursing school. My husband Jack and I had planned to go for our 25th anniversary, but he died before we reached 20. I kept the travel guides on my bookshelf all these years. "Are you serious? I'd love that," I said, tears welling in my eyes. But I couldn't afford to contribute much toward a trip like that right now. "Don't worry about it," Derek interjected with unusual generosity. "Consider it our treat for all you've done for Sophia over the years." For the first time in years, I felt truly included and appreciated. I should have known it was too good to be true. I prepared for the Italy trip with more excitement than I'd felt in years. I purchased new luggage, nothing fancy but respectable enough not to embarrass them. I researched appropriate clothing for Italian spring weather and bought a few new outfits splurging on comfortable walking shoes. I even took an online Italian course learning basic phrases to navigate cafes and museums. The flight to Rome was my first international travel experience. Sophia and Derek flew business class while I was in economy. "The company only paid for our upgrade," Derek explained. Still, I was too excited about finally seeing Italy to let the separate seating bother me. The first days in Rome had moments of joy. While Derek attended his conference, Sophia and I visited the Colosseum and Spanish Steps. We shared gelato near the Trevi Fountain, and for brief moments I glimpsed my daughter again, laughing, taking photos of me linking her arm through mine. Yet underlying tension surfaced quickly. Derek joined us for dinners, frequently checking his watch when I spoke, or sighing when I asked questions about Italian history or culture. "Mom, Derek is tired from networking all day," Sophia would whisper. "Maybe save the questions for later." When we moved on to Florence, the dynamic shifted further. Derek complained constantly about my walking pace, though I tried my best to keep up despite my arthritic knee. "We could cover twice as much ground if we weren't moving at a snail's pace," he muttered as we explored the Uffizi Gallery. I suggested they go ahead and meet me later, but Sophia insisted we stay together. "We're here as a family, Mom." The statement warmed my heart until Derek added, "Yeah, we're stuck together on this one." At restaurants, my food preferences became an issue. When I ordered chicken at a seafood restaurant because I'm allergic to shellfish, Derek rolled his eyes. "Why come to Italy if you're going to eat what you could get at Applebee's?" Trying to contribute positively, I offered to treat them to a private tour of the Accademia Gallery to see Michelangelo's David. It was expensive on my budget, but I wanted to show appreciation for the trip. Derek accepted without hesitation or thanks, then spent most of the tour on his phone while the guide spoke. As days passed, I began to realize why they had invited me. At each hotel checkout, Derek would slide the bill toward me. "Would you mind getting this one, Hattie? Our currency is tied up in investments right now. We'll cover the next one. The next one never came. I was paying for most meals, all museum entries, and hotel incidentals. My carefully budgeted spending money was disappearing rapidly, but I remained silent, not wanting to create conflict. By the time we reached day 8 of our 14-day trip, the tension was palpable. We were scheduled to leave Florence for Venice the following morning. That evening, Sophia and Derek went out for a romantic dinner alone, leaving me at the hotel. I ordered room service and fell asleep watching Italian television I couldn't understand. The next morning, I woke excited about Venice, the city I dreamed of seeing most. I dressed and packed carefully, then headed downstairs for the breakfast buffet at our agreed meeting time of 8:30. When neither appeared by 9, I texted Sophia. No response. By 9:30, I called her cell, straight to voicemail. At the front desk, I asked if they'd seen my daughter and son-in-law. "Senora Wilson, I have a note for you." The receptionist handed me a hotel envelope. Inside was a hastily written note in Sophia's handwriting. "Mom, we decided to head to Venice early to avoid weekend crowds. Take your time in Florence and come tomorrow instead. Text when you arrive. S&D." Confusion turned to concern as I returned to my room. I tried calling again. Still no answer. I checked the train schedules to Venice. The last one departed at 4 p.m., giving me plenty of time if they expected me to follow today. When I went to check out, another shock awaited. "I'm ready to settle my bill and store my luggage until this afternoon," I told the front desk manager. He looked confused. "Senora, your room is only reserved through today. The other guests in your party checked out early this morning and settled their portion of the stay." "What about the train tickets to Venice? Did they leave any for me?" "No, senora. Nothing was left." Anxiety building. I tried Sophia's phone again. This time she answered background noise suggesting they were already in Venice. "Mom, yeah, we got an early start. The crowds are supposed to be terrible this weekend." "Sophia, they say my room is only booked until today, and there are no train tickets." "How am I supposed to get to Venice?" A muffled conversation followed. She was clearly covering the phone to speak with Derek. Then she returned. "Can't you just book another night and take the train tomorrow? The hotel can help you with tickets." "I didn't budget for extra expenses like this. You two were handling the accommodations." Another muffled conversation. Then Derek's voice came on the line. "Hattie, you're an adult. Figure it out. We're not going to hold your hand through this trip." I heard Sophia giggle in the background. "Put Sophia back on, please," I said, my voice surprisingly steady despite my churning stomach. "Mom, just take care of it and meet us tomorrow. Text the hotel name when you're on the way." Her voice sounded different, dismissive, almost annoyed. "Is everything okay? Did I do something wrong?" "Everything's fine. We just needed a break, honestly. Playing tour guide gets exhausting." Then I heard it. Derek's voice in the background, not quite muffled enough. "Tell that old lady she's only bothering us. This trip was supposed to be our second honeymoon until your guilt got in the way." And Sophia laughed. She laughed at his cruel words. "I'll figure it out," I said quietly, and ended the call. The hotel manager, who had overheard my side of the conversation, approached with compassion in his eyes. "Senora, we have availability if you wish to extend your stay." With limited options and a breaking heart, I booked another night, dipping into funds I had reserved for emergencies. I spent the afternoon alone in my room, trying to process what had happened. Later, I saw their Instagram posts. Selfies on a gondola with the caption, "Finally enjoying Italy the way it was meant to be, #JustUs, #no extra baggage." The reference wasn't subtle. I was the baggage they had discarded. That night I made my decision. I called the airline and changed my return flight to the earliest available, an additional cost I could barely afford. I wasn't going to Venice. I was going home, and I was going to make some changes of my own. The transatlantic flight gave me 8 hours of uninterrupted thinking time. As the plane crossed the ocean, I reflected on the years of sacrifice, support, and love I had given Sophia. Images flashed through my mind, holding her hand on the first day of kindergarten, teaching her to drive in an empty parking lot, helping her move into her college dorm, celebrating her first job offer with champagne. I couldn't really afford. Contrasted against these memories were recent years, Derek's snide comments, Sophia's growing indifference, the financial exploitation, and now the ultimate humiliation of being abandoned in a foreign country. The stark reality settled over me like a heavy blanket. The daughter I raised was gone, replaced by someone who laughed while her husband called me that old lady. The transformation hadn't happened overnight, but I had been too blinded by maternal love to see it clearly. By the time the plane touched down in Portland, my grief had hardened into resolve. I took a taxi to my small apartment, exhausted but determined. After a shower and 6 hours of jet lag-induced sleep, I called Patricia. "They did what?" My lawyer friend was incredulous as I recounted the Italy incident. "Hattie, this goes beyond inconsiderate. This is elder abuse." "I'm not that old," I protested weakly. "Emotional and financial abuse doesn't care about your exact age. The financial entanglement with the house, the unpaid loans, and now abandoning you in a foreign country. Hattie, what do you want to do about this?" "I want what's legally mine," I said with newfound clarity. "And I want them to understand consequences." Over the next 2 days, Patricia helped me understand my legal options. As it turned out, the paperwork for the house purchase had been prepared by Patricia's former partner. The deed listed me as a 1/3 owner with right of survivorship, but also included a clause allowing any owner to force a sale with proper notification to other parties. Derek and Sophia had never read the fine print, assuming my name was merely a formality. The loan documentation for Derek's failed restaurant venture was minimal but existent. A promissory note he had signed but clearly never intended to honor. The other financial gifts were harder to prove, but the house was the largest asset and clearly documented. I researched Sophia and Derek's return date. They were scheduled to come home in 6 days. Plenty of time. My next call was to Martin Green, a realtor friend who had helped many nurses from my hospital find homes over the years. "Hattie, are you sure about this?" Martin asked after I explained my plan. "This is your daughter we're talking about." "The daughter who abandoned her mother in Italy and laughed about it." "Yes, I'm sure." Martin specialized in luxury properties and knew the market was hot. "I have a client who flips high-end homes. He works with cash and can close in days, not weeks. He's been looking for something in West Hills. I can arrange a showing tomorrow if you're certain." I provided my key to the house and documentation of ownership. The next morning, Martin toured the property with his investor client while I waited anxiously at a nearby coffee shop. "He's interested," Martin reported afterward. "The location is prime, and the house has great bones. He's offering $1.8 million cash as is, 20% below market, but he can close in 3 days with minimal contingencies." The amount made my head spin. Even after paying off the remaining mortgage of $800,000, there would be $1 million remaining. My 1/3 share would be over $300,000, more than enough to secure my retirement. But I wasn't just thinking about my share. I was thinking about everything in that house. I contacted a moving company next, scheduling them to empty the house 2 days before Sophia and Derek's return. I was meticulous about the instructions. All furniture, electronics, artwork, kitchen items, and general household goods were to be taken to high-end consignment stores or sold to dealers I had researched. Sophia's truly personal items, Photo albums, journals, mementos from her father would be carefully packed and stored separately. The morning the movers arrived, I stood in the foyer of the house I had helped purchase, feeling like a stranger. Family photos lined the staircase. Sophia and Derek skiing in Aspen, posing on beaches attending galas. But none included me, despite my significant contribution to their lifestyle. I walked through each room identifying truly sentimental items for preservation. In Sophia's office, I found a box containing her childhood teddy bear and the necklace I had given her for her 16th birthday. Apparently not important enough to wear anymore, but not discarded either. These went into the keep pile. Derek's possessions revealed his priorities: expensive watches, tailored suits, status symbols of all kinds, but nothing of genuine sentimental value. His home office contained financial documents that I carefully set aside. I wasn't interested in destroying anything important, only making a point. The process was surreal. I watched as movers carefully wrapped designer furniture and artwork, loading them into trucks bound for consignment shops that catered to Portland's wealthy. Electronics, kitchen appliances, and exercise equipment went to specialty dealers who paid cash. By evening, the house echoed with emptiness. Only the keep boxes remained neatly stacked in what had been the dining room. I took photos of each empty room for documentation and left printed copies of all legal paperwork on the kitchen counter, including the house sale documents awaiting final signatures. The following day, I met with the cash buyer and his attorney. Within hours, the sale was complete. I had the mortgage paid off and the remaining funds distributed according to ownership percentages. 1/3 to my new account, 2/3 to a separate account I established for Sophia and Derek. I wasn't stealing from them. I was merely exercising my legal right to sell and giving them their fair share. With everything in place, I checked into a hotel near their house, awaiting their return. According to their social media, they were still enjoying Venice, completely unaware of what awaited them in Portland. I felt no joy in what I'd done, only a sad certainty that it was necessary. Sometimes the hardest lessons are the only ones that get through. The morning of Sophia and Derek's return, I sat in my hotel room watching the clock. Their flight was scheduled to land at 11:30 a.m., accounting for customs baggage claim and the drive home. They would likely arrive at their house, former house, around 2 p.m. I had rehearsed what I would say when the inevitable call came. I wasn't hiding. I just wanted them to experience the full impact of their homecoming before I explained. At 2:17 p.m., my phone rang with Sophia's ringtone. I took a deep breath and answered. Mom, something's happened to the house." Sophia's voice was frantic, breathless. "We just got home and everything's gone. The furniture, the TV, everything. The neighbors said movers came." "Did someone break in? Did you know about this?" "I know exactly what happened," I replied, my voice calmer than I felt. "Nothing was stolen. The house was sold and the contents were liquidated. Legally." "What are you talking about?" Her voice rose in pitch. "Our house was sold. That's impossible." In the background, I heard Derek shouting first at Sophia, then coming closer to the phone. "Let me talk to her." The phone rustled and Derek's voice boomed through the speaker. "What the hell did you do, Hattie? Is this some kind of sick joke?" "It's not a joke, Derek. Check the paperwork on the kitchen counter. The house has been sold, which was my legal right as a co-owner. Your personal mementos are safely stored and will be returned to you. Everything else has been sold or consigned." "You can't do this. This is our home." His voice cracked between rage and panic. "We'll sue you. I'll have you arrested for theft. Before you make threats, review the documents with your attorney. You'll find everything was done legally. Your share of the proceeds from the house sale has been deposited into a new account. The details are in the paperwork." "Mom!" Sophia's voice returned, now sobbing. "How could you do this? We just got back from vacation. We have nowhere to go." The irony of her statement wasn't lost on me. That sounds familiar, doesn't it? Being stranded with nowhere to go. This is because we went to Venice without you. That was different. This is our home. Was your home. Just like Florence was my temporary home when you abandoned me there. Derek came back on the line, his tone shifting to threatening. "You've made a huge mistake. I'm calling our lawyer right now." "Please do. I'll meet you both at the Starbucks on Murray Boulevard in 1 hour with my attorney. We can discuss this civilly." He hung up without responding. I texted Patricia, who was already on standby, and drove to the coffee shop. I arrived early, ordering tea and selecting a table in the corner with a clear view of the entrance. Patricia joined me 15 minutes later, legal folder in hand. "Are you holding up okay?" she asked, squeezing my arm gently. "I feel hollow but certain," I replied. "They need to understand that actions have consequences." Sophia and Derek arrived 20 minutes late. My daughter's eyes were red and puffy, her travel clothes rumpled. Derek looked like he might explode, his face flushed and jaw clenched. They didn't have a lawyer with them, likely unable to arrange one so quickly. "Let's not make a scene," I said quietly as they approached. "Sit down, and we can discuss this like adults." "Like adults," Derek hissed, dropping into a chair. "Adults don't sell other people's homes while they're on vacation. And adults don't abandon elderly parents in foreign countries," Patricia interjected smoothly. "I'm Patricia Wilson, Hattie's attorney." I placed a folder on the table. "These are copies of all relevant documents, the deed showing my 1/3 ownership, with right to sell documentation of my financial contributions, totaling over $200,000. The promissory note for the $75,000 loan for Derek's restaurant venture, and statements showing your share of the house sale proceeds." Derek snatched the folder, flipping through documents while Sophia sat frozen, staring at me as if seeing a stranger. "You put your name on the deed?" he finally asked, looking up from the papers. "When did this happen?" "When I contributed $150,000 to the down payment," I replied. "You were there, Derek. You signed the papers. Did you not read them?" His silence was answer enough. "As you can see," Patricia continued, "the house sold for $1.8 million. After the mortgage payoff, your 2/3 share comes to $666,000. That amount has been deposited in an account in both your names. The furniture and household items were sold for approximately $200,000, with those proceeds also in your account." "But where are we supposed to live?" Sophia asked, her voice small. "All our things. You have nearly $900,000. That's enough to restart," I said. "Your personal items, photo albums, keepsakes, important documents, are in storage unit 247 at Portland Security Storage. The key and paid receipt are in that folder." Derek was still reviewing the paperwork, his financial mind finally grasping the situation. "This is legal," he muttered almost to himself. "She really had the right to do this." He looked up at me, anger replaced by a calculating gaze. "You've made your point, Hattie. Now let's work out a deal. We'll buy your share of the proceeds, find another house. We can move past this." "There's no deal to make," I replied. "The transaction is complete. You have your money, I have mine. Our financial entanglement is over." "Mom, please," Sophia pleaded, reaching for my hand. I let her take it but felt nothing. "We made a mistake in Italy. We got caught up in having a romantic trip and handled it badly, but this selling our home, all our things, it's extreme. Was it extreme when I was stranded in a foreign country where I didn't speak the language? Was it extreme when I heard my daughter laugh while her husband called me that old lady? Was it extreme when I had to dip into emergency funds to change my flight and get home alone? Tears filled Sophia's eyes. I'm sorry about that. Derek was stressed and I just wanted to make him happy. I didn't mean to hurt you. But you did hurt me, Sophia. Not just in Italy, but for years before that. Both of you have taken my financial help while treating me with increasing disrespect. The house was just the largest example. Derek's face hardened again. So this is revenge. Pure and simple. No, Derek. This is a consequence. And a clean break. I stood up, gathering my purse. You both are young, successful professionals with nearly $1 million in liquid assets. You'll recover financially. Whether our relationship can recover is a different question entirely. As I turned to leave, Sophia grabbed my wrist. You can't just walk away. You're my mother. Yes, I am your mother. I always will be. But right now, I need time and space to decide what that means going forward. Derek stood suddenly, knocking his chair backward. My parents were right about you all along. You're just a bitter old woman who can't stand to see her daughter happy. Patricia stepped between us. That's enough. Hattie has exercised her legal rights after years of financial exploitation. Any further communication should go through me. As we walked toward the exit, I heard Derek say to Sophia, Don't worry, we'll contest this. She can't get away with it. Sophia's response was too quiet to hear, but her expression as I glanced back showed the first hint of uncertainty, perhaps the first recognition that her husband might not be the financial genius or loving partner she had believed. In the parking lot, Patricia hugged me. You did what you needed to do. Try to get some rest. But rest wouldn't come easily. I had stood up for myself, but at what cost? Only time would tell if the relationship with my daughter could ever heal from this necessary but painful break. The 6 months following what I came to call the reckoning were a time of profound change and healing for me. With my financial situation suddenly secure, I was able to finally retire from nursing and focus on rebuilding my life. The first month was the hardest. Sophia called daily, alternating between tearful apologies and angry accusations. Derek's threatened lawsuit never materialized. Their attorney presumably explained that my actions, while drastic, were legally sound. Instead, they moved into an upscale apartment while looking for a new house. I used some of my proceeds to fulfill my lifelong dream, a proper trip to Italy. This time, I joined a small group tour for solo travelers over 50. The experience was healing in ways I hadn't anticipated. I stood before Michelangelo's David without anyone rushing me. I rode a gondola in Venice with new friends who valued my company. I lingered over meals without checking anyone else's watch. Upon returning, I purchased a small cottage near the Oregon coast. Modest, but perfect for my needs, with a garden and a view of the ocean. Far enough from Portland to establish boundaries, but not so far that reconciliation was impossible should that day come. I also established a solid financial plan with a certified advisor, ensuring my retirement would be secure without dependence on anyone else. The peace of mind this brought was worth every penny I'd reclaimed. 3 months after the house sale, I received an unexpected call from Marta Derek's mother. Hattie, I want you to know that Derek hasn't been honest with us about what happened, she said. We just learned about Italy from one of Sophia's friends. No matter what financial disagreements you had, abandoning you overseas was unconscionable. Her support surprised me, but later I would learn it was just the beginning of Derek's support system crumbling. 4 months in, Sophia asked to meet for coffee. Alone. She arrived looking thinner with dark circles under her eyes. "Derek and I are separating," she announced without preamble. "After what happened with the house, things just fell apart. He blamed me for putting you on the deed. I started seeing other problems in our relationship that I'd been ignoring." I listened as she described discovering Derek's gambling habit, hidden credit cards, and emotional manipulation. The house situation had pulled back the curtain on his financial deceptions, including investments that didn't exist. "I'm not telling you this to make you feel responsible," she clarified. "It would have happened eventually. Your actions just sped up the inevitable." "Are you okay financially?" I asked, maternal concern still present despite everything. "I'm fine. I kept my portion of the house money separate on my lawyer's advice. I'm staying with Katie from work while looking for my own place." Katie had been Sophia's friend since college, someone Derek had gradually isolated her from. This first meeting was brief and awkward, but it opened the door. We began meeting monthly, carefully rebuilding our relationship from the ground up. I maintained firm boundaries, making it clear that financial entanglement was off the table. Sophia started therapy, working to understand how she had changed so dramatically during her relationship with Derek. I joined her for several sessions where we addressed painful truths about our codependent patterns and mutual enabling. I wanted his lifestyle and approval so badly that I was willing to sacrifice our relationship, she admitted during one joint session. "I convinced myself that his way of treating you was normal because acknowledging the truth meant facing my own complicity." 6 months after the reckoning, Sophia filed for divorce. Derek, facing gambling debts and the collapse of his carefully constructed image, moved to Seattle for a fresh start. For Thanksgiving that year, Sophia asked if she could come to my cottage. We cooked together in my small kitchen, nothing elaborate, just traditional dishes that reminded us of simpler times. As we sat at my table overlooking the ocean, Sophia raised her glass. "To new beginnings and hard lessons." I clinked my glass against hers. "And to boundaries that make better relationships possible." "I'm sorry, Mom," she said, not for the first time. "I keep thinking about all you did for me growing up and how I repaid you." "We've covered that ground, Sophia. I'm interested in who we are now and who we're becoming, not just who we were." She nodded, understanding that real forgiveness doesn't dwell in the past. "I'm looking at houses in Salem," she shared. "Still close enough to visit, but a fresh start away from Portland memories." "That sounds healthy," I replied, genuinely happy for her independence. Our relationship was different now, more honest, more equal. I no longer saw her through the rose-colored glasses of maternal devotion, and she no longer took my support for granted. We were two adults finding our way back to love through respect and boundaries. The most valuable lesson from this painful chapter wasn't about revenge or even justice. It was about the liberation that comes from standing up for yourself. For decades, I had defined myself primarily as Sophia's mother, making her happiness my responsibility. The painful abandonment in Florence had forced me to confront a difficult truth: love without respect isn't love at all. By reclaiming what was rightfully mine, not just financially but emotionally, I had found a strength I didn't know I possessed. My cottage by the sea represented more than financial security. It symbolized my newfound independence. I still loved my daughter deeply, perhaps more authentically now that I could see her clearly as the complicated human she was, rather than the perfect child I had imagined. True reconciliation would take time, but the foundation we were building felt solid in a way our previous relationship never had. As we walked on the beach that evening, Sophia asked, Do you think we'll ever get back to how we were before? I watched the waves for a moment before answering. No, and that's okay. What we're building now is better because it's real. She nodded, understanding. Some people might see what I did as extreme, but sometimes a clean break is necessary for true healing to begin. By selling everything, I hadn't just reclaimed my financial security, I had broken a cycle of dependence and disrespect that would have continued indefinitely. The mother who was abandoned in Florence wouldn't have recognized the woman I had become, stronger, clearer in my boundaries, and paradoxically more capable of genuine love than ever before. What do you think about standing up for yourself when family takes advantage of you? Have you ever had to make a difficult decision to protect yourself from loved ones? Comment below with your experiences. If this story resonated with you, please like and subscribe for more reflections on family boundaries and healing. And remember, it's never too late to reclaim your worth. Thank you for listening to my journey.